Greg Hudson here from Jaspersoft Technical Support to talk with you about problems and solutions when using a reverse proxy in front of Jasperport server. When speaking about web applications generically, a reverse proxy is a proxy server, web server, load balancer, or similar server which receives client web browser requests for an external URL, then forwards it to a differently named and sourced internal URL. It receives that response from the internal server and returns it all back out to the client browser. When talking about URLs and requests, we're talking about the protocol or port, which would be your HTTP or HTTPS. That's protocol or scheme. We have your host name or domain name or IP address, which is the host you're trying to reach, and then port if it exists or if it's applicable. So reverse proxies, when misconfigured, can cause issues like the CSRF errors and messages you might find in the logs or your browser console, as well as some odd behavior like maybe a blank in this section which is normally populated by data, as well as blocked mixed content request messages that are occurring in the developer tools console. These are occurring due to the requests having mismatched port, scheme, and host names. So in this example, I'm referencing the wrong protocol or scheme and an invalid port. So the host and the refer headers are the key culprits when looking at these types of issues. You need to ensure you know exactly what is coming from the proxy into your app server. So this isn't necessarily what you see in your browser, rather it's what the app server is receiving, which could obviously be very different because the proxy sits between the browser and the app server. And here's an example of the refer header. As you see, these two host values are different, and I made them different just by toggling a simple value within my sample Apache web server. So once you understand why and confirm that the host or refer are problematic, you can fix them in a few ways. The first option is to use configurations and things like URL rewriting directly within your reverse proxy. This is true whether you're using HA proxy, Apache web server, F5, etc. We aren't experts in proxies, so your own network engineers should own this. They can probably be able to ensure the host header inbound matches the external host name, or they could handle rewriting to make sure their corrections are done outbound. A second option, if you're using Tomcat, would be to edit your server.xml and modify or add scheme, proxyName, and port attributes within your connector element. You'd want these values to match your values externally. A sample of that is here that I have commented out. This would be my example of the external host name instead of the internal, and of course I'm specifying the exact port and protocol or scheme. A third option, if you're using Jasperport 7.1.0 or later, is to edit the application context-webapp.xml and tweak the proxy URL filter bean. So you can tweak this according to the descriptions in this file. In this file we're referencing a few default header names that are common, but you can set them to anything. So you can make this filter look for any headers that work for you, and it allows you to specify the entire host name with with port as well as scheme, or you can just specify them individually here for the prototype or scheme and the port. A fourth option is deploy.base.url, but it isn't recommended, so we won't delve into that right now. So you have a couple options to work with. These are different options for different scenarios. Maybe you want to do this entirely on the load balancer side or the proxy side, or maybe you want to do it within JRS, or you have the option of doing it in between in Tomcat. And so this gives you some options in case you've got environments that are quite complex versus simple. So thanks for watching this video, and happy troubleshooting.